Hi there, I'm Vincent Bos and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing your ex's fear at Christmas. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast. And today we are discussing your ex's fear at Christmas. So if you've been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will likely be wondering about their thoughts at Christmas time. In today's podcast, I'm discussing 3 of your ex's biggest fears at Christmas. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is that you will cause them distress. So one of the biggest fears that a dumper will have during the Christmas period, in particular on Christmas Day, is that you as a dumpee are going to ruin their day by causing them distress. Now what exactly do I mean by causing them distress? Well, it could fit into a number of possibilities. The first of which is that you turn up at their house, knocking on their door, trying to reconnect or at least grabbing a word, maybe offering them a gift or a present and saying, come on, let's get back together. We shouldn't be apart. Let's try and sort this out. And although as a dumpee you might think, well, that sounds nice. I'm wishing them a Merry Christmas. I'm giving them a present. What's the problem? Well, if you consider the perspective of your dumper, which is unfortunately that they have lost romantic emotional attraction for you, they've decided to go down a different path on their life, they're living their life in a way where they don't currently want to be connected with you, then you might see it from a slightly different angle. But even though you might be thinking, well, I'm offering them a present, I'm trying to bring some Christmas goodwill here, you might see it from your dumper's perspective that they're not looking for this right now. It's not a nice thought, dumpees. I appreciate that you want to reconnect. I appreciate, but you think that you might be able to solve things with a present, with maybe an apology, trying to sort things out on Christmas Day itself, but your dumper is not feeling the vibe with you right now. They're not feeling enough romantic emotional attraction. And if you decide to just turn up at their door, they are likely to feel distressed, disturbed. They've probably got plans. They're probably spending time with their friends or their family. They're not expecting you to turn up. And hence this would be a distress that they are concerned that you might be causing them. Now, of course, it doesn't have to be as extreme as you turning up at their door and knocking on their door and trying to give them a gift and saying, let's just sort this out. It could be something along the lines of you trying to give them a phone call, giving them a call, trying to say Merry Christmas and speak them round from that perspective. Or perhaps, even less than that, a text. You might, as a dumpee, not see the problem with just sending a text or trying to call your ex on Christmas Day. But again, from your dumper's perspective, in their mind, the relationship is over. And although there is a chance they could change their mind in the future, this is something that they have to come to the decision of themselves. This is something that they need to come to the conclusion that they want to reconnect with you. Now, if and when this happens, of course, you as a dumpee also get your say on things. Just because they might change their mind, it doesn't mean that you have to take them back. But we're looking at it from the point of view of this Christmas Day and what happens if you call them or if you text them, let alone if you knock on their door. Your ex-dumper is not ready for this. They're not looking for this, and this would distress them. The best way I can describe it for you to try and understand dumpees is if you were to imagine someone that you really don't want to hear from on Christmas Day, and then unfortunately, I'm now going to ask you to try and consider how your ex-dumper might feel with you in that position. And I know that might sound frustrating or very, very sad, but I'm comparing you in regards to your dumper, just as you might be considering somebody else in your life that maybe you don't like at all, and you're thinking, well, it's not the same. Me and my ex were together for many, many years. How on earth can you say this is the same? Well, unfortunately, they don't want to see you right now, and they don't want to hear from you right now, just as you don't with people from either your past or your present, but you just don't want to hear from on Christmas Day. So when we consider that first fear that your ex-dumper has on Christmas Day, it is that you are going to cause them distress. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube, and if you have the new hype feature, please hype this video as well. If you like my content, subscribe to the channel to keep updated. And point number 2 is that they will be alone. So in point number 1, we were saying about how your ex-dumper doesn't want to hear from you right now because they've ended the relationship, and if you were to do so, it would likely distress them. So point number 2 might sound very strange indeed, because we're going from saying that they don't want to hear from you, but now we are saying that they have a fear of being alone. But these two fears can coexist because, as I said previously, unfortunately they don't feel enough romantic emotional attraction for you right now. This could grow in the future, but right now they're not feeling it, and hence this is why they don't want to hear from you, but they also don't want to be alone. When they chose to end the relationship, when the level of attraction dropped to the necessary low point and they actioned the breakup, it wasn't necessarily because they then thought they would live the rest of their life alone. The likelihood is they thought that the relationship wasn't working, but it doesn't mean they want to spend special days on the calendar by themselves. No, most dumpers are going to want to live their life in a way where they do feel fulfilled, and this will likely be, at times like Christmas, surrounded by other people. Now this will probably consist of their friends, their family, but we can't ignore the possibility that there could be a new date in the picture. Now I don't like to say these words because I don't want to add anxiety to you dumpies. And listen, if your ex-dumper is dating someone new within the first year or so post-breakup, the likelihood is this isn't going to last. It's very hard indeed to find a long-term compatible partner, and if your ex-dumper has met someone new in the most recent months, the likelihood is this isn't going to be a connection which works out in the long term. But I appreciate dumpies, that doesn't help me saying it if you are thinking they might be spending Christmas with someone else. It's not likely, it's not necessarily going to last forever, even if it does happen, but we have to acknowledge it. It's possible they could be with a new date. And even if they're not with a new date right now, your ex-dumper will one day be hoping that they find a relationship that they feel is compatible moving forward. Now as a dumpy, you might be thinking, well, we were compatible. And listen, you were back then, and maybe you will be in the future. But right now, your ex-dumper doesn't feel this way, and we just have to acknowledge things for what they are. Feelings come, feelings go, and feelings can come back. They evolve, they flow. This isn't something which is set in stone. But right now, they have chosen to end your relationship. They have chosen to move forward as a single person, but it doesn't mean they want to be alone. And hence this is one of their biggest fears, because when they ended a relationship, they realised that they were ending a connection with someone, i.e. you, who didn't want this relationship to end. So it was a gamble. It was a gamble because they've decided to walk away from a partner. They've walked away from someone who loved them. They potentially had to move house. They potentially had to move area. They maybe have moved out of a large house and are now in a very small apartment possibly. This is the type of thing that a dumper will gamble on, thinking that in the long term it will satisfy them and fulfill them more. But it's still a risk, it's a concern, and they don't know for certain that it's going to work out. Now, if this is the first Christmas in particular post-breakup, as I've already said, it's very unlikely that they will be with a new date. So there is a strong possibility they could be alone if they haven't organised to spend time with family or friends. Now, if you do hear on the grapevine, on social media from somebody else, but your ex-dumper is going to some type of an event or a meal or whatever it may be, the likelihood is it's with friends or family. But if it isn't, then they are probably spending the time alone. And this is a big fear because just as they decided to end the relationship, they didn't decide to put themselves in solitary confinement. They don't want that. Most people like social interaction. Most people want to spend time with others at Christmas time, and this is something that they don't want to do alone. So it's just important, dumpees, that if you are concerned about your own situation, about who you will be spending Christmas with, just think that your ex isn't necessarily living the life that you are worried that they are living. Because I know that as a dumpee, you might be thinking, well, I'm going to be alone, or I'm not going to be with anybody that I really want to, but my dumper is probably living their best life. But the reality is that they are much more likely to be alone. And that's why, dumpees, if you surround yourself with friends and family, there is a good chance that you will have a better Christmas than your ex. And even though you might think, well, they've brought that on themselves, this is their fault, I'm not asking you to feel sorry for them. I'm just stating a fact. Make sure that you spend time with other people, because your ex-dumper can't guarantee that they will do the same. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast. If you feel that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description. And point number 3 is that you have a better day than them. So now we're talking about a situation which can actually play into your hands, dumpees. If you want to try to get your ex back, then you want them to miss you. You want them to be thinking about you and almost craving the life that you are living, and hence they want to share it with you. And in regards to Christmas time, this is that you have a better Christmas than they do. Now, how would they know this? Well, maybe you have mutual friends. Maybe there are people who could pass this information on. Maybe there are people that are spending time with you who are then likely to pass this information on. If that's the case, if you're spending Christmas Day with certain people who you think might speak to your ex, well, just make sure that you live your best life on Christmas Day. Make sure you're happy, carefree, and fun, because this is the information that will be passed on. Now, even though you might not have people to pass information on, perhaps you go on social media, perhaps you share a few photos or videos, type a few statuses or whatnot about what you are doing on Christmas Day. If you do, make sure you are showcasing yourself in a positive light. I'm not asking you to lie, but what I am doing is asking that you don't put online any negativity. Yes, you might feel down. Yes, you might feel sad, but you don't need to share that with the rest of the world. Just share that with people that you trust, close family and friends that you know are not connected to your dumper, and hence you know won't pass that information on. Not with mutual friends who you know will pass this information on instantly. Additionally, if you are feeling down, you might want to contact a local doctor, or perhaps you would feel the benefit from speaking with me via my audio coaching service, somebody who, of course, has no connection to you or your ex. This is a situation where you need to release your emotions safely so you can present your best life. Again, this isn't lying, it's just showing and highlighting the good without showcasing and highlighting the bad. Any photo or video that your ex sees you smiling and having a great time is going to pull on them. Any information that they are told about you having a great time is going to pull on them. Now, if you decide to post some sad song lyrics online, well, they're going to realise that you are missing them, and that is going to push your ex-dumper onto that pedestal, and they are not going to miss you in a romantic sense. Yes, they might feel sorry for you. Yes, they might even feel worried for you, but it is not going to generate the romantic emotional attraction necessary to reconnect in a romantic way. So if your ex-dumper is concerned about you and reaches out, that is not the same for if they were to reach out to you and try to build a connection once more. it's different, and if you want your ex back, it needs to be for the right reasons. So as Christmas Day approaches, as you get to that point where you are no doubt thinking of your ex-dumper and wondering about what they are doing, just remind yourself that they are not likely to be living their best life that you are worried that they are. Firstly, they're probably going to be concerned that you are having a better day than them, and you can really help pull on their heartstrings regarding this via how you present yourself on Christmas Day. Try and remember to be happy, carefree, and fun. Additionally, remember that there is a chance that they are alone. You might worry that you're going to be alone or not with somebody that you really want, but they might be exactly the same. They're not necessarily living an incredible life, and even if you think they are, by seeing things on social media, well, remember, this doesn't have to be exactly as it was. And as long as you don't cause them frustration and distress by knocking on their door, calling them, or doing anything which makes them feel, actually, I've made the right decision because my dumpee is really annoying me. They're not respecting my decision. They keep chasing me and bombarding me on Christmas Day, and they won't just let me have peace. As long as you are not annoying them, then they are much more likely to start thinking about you, wondering about you, and hopefully missing you.